Rose, Coach Steve Smith, Coach Rusty Jakeaway. In just a little while, you'll know them as comedians instead of state championship quality football coaches. All right, so I don't know where to start, so I guess we'll just let you three.
Well, you've already messed up.
Well,
because if you said that, I know from my point, if this was your childhood heroes, you were really hurting for heroes as a child.
Well, I would be.
No, I was a hero.
Oh, okay. Tripp was the hero. Tripp was.
Well, before I knew, really probably either one of y'all, I knew Coach Smith from church, and I knew your
wife before you knew
because
me. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with her in the summer up there in the ag shop in the home ec building at Cherokee County High School.
Your daddy was like the other brother to my wife. Honestly, she when he passed, she cried for days, and they were real tight. They talked for so long together over there.
Well, Coach Smith has been at Cedar Bluff and at Piedmont and now at Westbrook Christian, and I know a lot of people in Cherokee County were really excited to see you leave Piedmont. But moving right along, Coach Rusty Jakeaway, he's a Collinsville guy. Spent his tenure, I guess you would say, at Sandrock, won a state championship.
I was in it 37 years and spent 32 of them at Sandrock. It was the only head job I ever had.
Well, that's that must have went pretty well because I think the stadium's named after you over there, so I think it was pretty good tenure at Sandrock, and I guess
that's just because I mowed the grass.
Well, I guess my personal favorite, if I have to choose, and I hate to do these guys like that because they're so well known and well respected, but Coach Trip Curry was my head football coach in high school, and I guess he gets some of the blame as to how I turned out, but I think a lot of Coach Curry. He won the state championship here at Cherokee County in 2009, and had a lot of good memories with Coach Curry. And I guess without further ado, I guess now that y'all are introduced, I guess we can let one of y'all kick it off and start telling some stories that maybe some of the fans in Sandrock and Piedmont and Westbrook and Cherokee County faithful don't know. So.
I think a lot of our stories probably have to do with each other. I don't know, but
that's kind of what we were hoping for.
So I'll say back in the day, and we were just talking about it. And Coach Smith and I used to, when he was a young coach, we rode to the playoff meetings a lot together, and I can still remember going. He would grill me all the way down there. He was always wanting to learn. I still remember this question: how many pass protections do you run? And just things like that. We talked football all the way. Had a good time. We talked football all the way down, all the way back, and we weren't playing each other in the playoffs, and so. We just always had a good time riding down and riding back together to the playoffs. And I'll say on Coach Curry, I can remember when Coach Curry first came to center, and from my point of view, the people I heard was how terrible he was, because he was terrible because he was going to make them come to workouts, and they had to be at practice and just things like that, and stuff that I heard from Coach Curry, and I'm like, you mean you got to come to practice? You got to come to workouts? What's the big deal? But, I can remember that from when Tripp first came to center. So that was my recollections, first ones on these two guys.
Well, Coach, you want to add into that?
Coach Jakeaway, he was kind of already, when I came to Cedar Bluff, it was 1995, and Coach Jakeaway had been at Sandrock by about a dozen years or so, give or take, and they had won a state championship. I actually had went to several of their playoff games in 1985 when they won the championship because I was in high school at center, and we had gotten beat out of the playoffs, and so I think I went to maybe the quarterfinal game or the semifinal game that they played there at Sandrock, and it was kind of a neat thing because we had played in the championship game at center my freshman year in '84, and just to see the crowd that showed up for that game and how everybody like in the county got together, got behind the team that was playing. We went up to Sandrock, and I can't remember who they were even playing. I guess, was it the semifinal game? We got home in the semifinals, Coach? Or was it the quarter? And just a packed standing room only. I remember us getting there a couple hours before the game, just trying to get in, and just seeing somebody there in the county, playing in a game of that magnitude. It was really cool. But then I got hired at Cedar Bluff, and Coach said I was young. I was 25. And so didn't know a whole lot about being a head coach, and I always told that Cedar Bluff and Sandrock, it was a pretty bitter rivalry. It was always game 2 back then on a Thursday night, and it was the only game around on Thursday night, and it was always a packed house. But one thing that always stood out to me about Coach Jakeaway was no matter whatever was going on that week, we didn't really talk a whole lot because it was game week. But any other time, he was always available to help out. Of course, at that time, Coach Johnson was still at center, who was my high school coach, and so we had some veteran guys there that we could lean on as young coaches. And I always had a lot of respect for what Coach did. You know, they threw the ball a lot more back in those days than most people did. And all those questions that I'd ask him about what are y'all doing on this and how you did the passing game. They were an I formation team, but they always had a big tight end and a couple of quick receivers. They ran the ball good, all those things that you want to do. But he was always willing to share what he could, you know, with a young coach. He didn't really hold it against me that I was at a rival school. And so that was always something that I really appreciated about him. But he was telling me, we was talking a little bit before, and he was talking about stories and things. I'll let him talk about when he forgot his footballs that year and he came to Cedar Bluff. I'll let him tell that story, and then I got one. But then I also remember when Coach Curry came to center and the excitement that he generated with that program. I think within, third or fourth, fifth year, they played in the state championship game, I believe. Was that right, Coach? About the fourth or fifth year, y'all played in the championship game?
Yeah, it was.
And, you know, I was coaching at Cedar Bluff Steel at that time. And, you know, I'd always want to know how my high school did. And to see them play for a championship, I can remember watching that game and seeing all the excitement that was back in center, for the first time, I guess, since '84, and all. So just a lot of respect for both these guys and what they were able to do as football coaches, two of the best football coaches that I've ever coached against, to be honest. Always very well prepared, but a lot of good memories from playing against those guys. Once I got to Piedmont, we started playing center again and brought that rivalry back. And then all the years at Cedar Bluff playing Sandrock. I actually played Sandrock the first 2 years I was at Piedmont because we had fallen to 2A. And Coach Jakeaway and Coach Benefield kind of busted me out when I was over there interviewing. They showed up for a region meeting that night and saw me in the principal's office and asked me what I was doing in there.
We walked by, we started making fun of them. We had a region meeting that night. We walked by, and I just happened to glance. And Steve is sitting in the principal's office, and I'm going, uh-huh. And, yep, it happened. So probably wasn't what he was wanting to have happen that night was for us to see him over there.
No, I didn't know they was going to see me there.
But we go to Piedmont the first couple of years he's over there. I probably would have won one of them, but I think the officials had all roomed with him at Jacksonville. And
a lot of people say that about Coach Smith.
I won't get into the officiating that night, but I know he ran one play with a tight end that for a touchdown tight end was ineligible, and before when they lined up, I'm telling the official, he is not eligible. He is not eligible. Well, he catches the touchdown pass. And, it's but I do have one quick story to tell on both of them. I played Coach Smith, and we go to Cedar Bluff one night, and we get over there, and we realize we don't have our footballs. And they had gotten pushed back in the equipment room and didn't get loaded. So we get over there, and I'm like, well, crap. We're out to warm up when we realize we don't have the footballs. Well, I've already seen it's not that far back to Sandrock. I've already seen our cameraman. He is flying back through the backwoods going to Sandrock to get our balls. And I walked down to Steve. I said, hey, Coach, we didn't bring our balls. Can I borrow one? And I swear it was a rugby football. It was this big around. And the whole time we warmed up, he stood down there with a smile on his face laughing at us. And, you could throw that thing. It was just end over end. And so that was one on Coach. And I
didn't ask for a good football.
He didn't ask for a good ball. He didn't ask for a game ball. He just asked for a ball.
I'd have probably done the same thing to him.
He would have.
But I said, I just want one. I should have asked for two because surely the other one would have been pretty good.
The other one might have been flat.
I gave him a good kicking ball.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize is I actually, me and Coach Curry played each other one time. When he was at Springville, we played in the semifinals the year before you came to center. And it was 5 degrees. Absolutely. If it was a degree, it was 5 degrees. And I know you can guess what Coach Curry was wearing.
Oh, he had on shorts.
He had on his shorts. And we both had really good football teams. You talk about a fun game to watch now.
I watched it. I watched that game. I stood in the end zone.
Battle. I wouldn't want to play them again. And we were able to make a stop on the last series and win the ball game. But the trainer comes down during warm-ups. He said, Coach, you've got an advantage. I said, what's that? He said, well, I know you're smarter than that guy. Because Tripp's up there with his shorts on. I think I had 3 pair of pants on, 4 jackets on, and just everything I could find because it was literally just freezing cold.
I've never known him to wear anything else.
And
well, when I first started, Coach Battles always wore shorts.
Yeah.
And I just kind of learned from him, and he always won. So I said, well, I'm just going to keep wearing shorts.
And it gets to be superstition after a while.
It gets to be superstition, and then we did good. And so I said, well, I'm just going to keep wearing them. And the only time I wish I would not have worn them is we played UMS Wright in the state championship ball game. And I always carry a bag with me just to have extra socks or extra pants or whatever. Well, I forgot the bag. And I stood out there in a plastic jacket. Now, my upper body does get cold, but my legs don't get real cold. And I sit there, and they started beating the mess out of us, and I was sitting there just shivering on the sidelines. It was one of the most miserable nights. And then every timeout or whatever, Santa Claus comes out there.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
holds the game up.
Yeah, because it's in December.
He
right?
was the TV guy, and he was dressed as Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Bob Pannoni was that
Yes,
guy's name.
Pannoni.
Dressed as Santa
And
Claus.
for the viewing audience that's not aware of what he's talking about, it was probably
there. I remember.
it was probably single digit wind chill that night
it was
at
cold.
Legion Field, and right after the opening kickoff, we run that thing out to about the 40-yard line, and we had a good football team. We're 14-0 in the North. Just beat a really good Deschler team at Deschler that was, coached by Coach Mothershed, and that's when nobody went to Deschler and won. And we went up there and beat that Deschler team at Deschler, and we're thinking we're really, really good. And again, UMS Wright kicks off to us. We run it out to about the 40, and we've got an all-set quarterback, and Cody Blanchard takes the snap and throws it as far as he can throw it down the sideline. And they picked that thing off, and the beating began. I mean, they beat us. And it was miserably cold. I cut the boots out of a pair of waders and put tennis shoes on with hand warmers in my tennis shoes, and then put my wind pants on over my camouflage waders. And I like to freeze it.
I was there. I remember that was really a good football team.
It was, and I'm not going to get any fans from saying this, but I honestly believe the team in 2008 that finished runner-up, 14-1 at Cherokee County, was probably more talented top to bottom than the team in 2009.
Well, it's all relative. The team that I had the year before we played Springville was the best football team I ever coached. We got beat in the semifinals by Lightville. The team that we had the next year was not as good, but we got beat at Cedar Bluff, actually. Yep. We go to Cedar Bluff game 1 that year or 2.
It was game 2 still on Thursday
night. And they
night.
beat us. And that's the only game we lost to the state finals. And because they brought it up all year long, we were in the finals. Well, you couldn't beat us.
Well, that was also the headset. That's the headset. That's a story I'll tell in a minute. Go ahead and finish.
But and we played Springville in the semifinals, and we just got on a roll late in the year. But we had lost to Cedar Bluff game 2. And you've seen the movie The Junction Boys. That's what practice at Sandrock looked like the next week. I probably could have gotten fired. Nowadays, I would get fired for the stuff we did in practice that week. We were literally throwing kids at each other. But they reacted, they had character and reacted well. But we got after it pretty good that next week. And we were playing a Valley Head team that wasn't real good, and I felt like we could win. Then the next week we upset Plainview in overtime, and we just got on a roll. But all year long, that was the Springville team that Coach Curry had. That was your last team at Springville, wasn't it?
It was 97 was that year.
Yeah. But that was the best football team we had played all year long. And luckily, probably the difference in that game, if we go to Springville probably wins. At Sandrock, we were able to get a stop late in the ball game and win the ball game. That's how evenly those two teams were matched.
Well, you mentioned earlier about kids having to go to practice and just creating a culture, I guess you would say. And it was a culture shock, when Coach Curry first came to center, because the meek, mild-mannered guy that you see behind the microphone, I don't know where he was at that day, but he was not at 910 Warrior Drive. And the first time we ever met Coach Curry, he came to the middle school. And I won't throw any of them under the bus, but they know exactly who I'm talking to. And pretty much everybody that played football in my grade, the graduating class of 2005, was in ISS. We were in school suspension. We had pulled a 8th grade senior prank, if you will, and a Sandrock lady, Miss Renee Williams, now Miss Renee Miller was our principal, and we called her Killer Miller. And she wasn't too enthused with our 8th grade senior prank, and we were all in ISS. And Coach Curry told us real quick, hey, you want to be on this football team, you'll ship up or ship out, and the rest is history. But just to talk a little bit about summer conditioning. When we went to spring training that first year, there was 96 kids dressed out for the first day of spring training, his first day at Cherokee County, and I was one of them. And it was some of the best looking, biggest, strongest, just freak athletes, guys that, upperclassmen that you kind of admire and look up to, and they just never been around anything like that. And it was so up-tempo and so fast-paced. There's no, stopping, for a water break per se. You're getting water in the drills, and everything was just so organized, and it was just completely just mind-blowing, to what we were used to coming from middle school and off the previous coaching staff. But anyway, we go out there, and I think 18 of us walked on the field the night we played Piedmont. And to fast forward through that year, because there's not a whole lot of highlights. We went 1-9 my freshman year, and it was just it was my first taste of really losing. No matter what we done, we always just come up a little short. We were in several ball games, and it was a tough region with Alexandria and Welborn, and Hoax Bluff won the 3A state championship that year, and Emma Sampson, and it was just such a Tyrone Prothero is Pontiac Game Changer of the Year. I mean, I'm 14 years old. I mean, I had a crick in my neck first time we kicked off to him as he'd run up the sideline scoring another touchdown. But that next summer, everybody come out in the spring, and they were bought in, and we had off-season conditioning and everything. And my dad being up there in the ag shop, I just become kind of the chauffeur, if you will. And Coach Curry would always give me the keys to his truck, and I would, leave early and go get these guys. So me and Cedric Covington are in the truck, and Cedric played linebacker for us, and real quiet, and me and Ced, played the same little league baseball team, and we grew up, and we was just buddies. And Ced just happened to be there that day, and Coach Curry comes in there, running 100-0, and said, "Hey, I need y'all to go pick everybody up. Y'all hop in my truck and go get them." So me and Ced hop in the truck, and we tear out, and we get up towards Alexis, and we start making our rounds, and it seems like there's 8 or 9 kids, in the regular cab Toyota, completing opposite of anything that they'd let you do today. But, we had everybody piled in the truck, and everybody's, riding in the back of the truck, no shirt on, hot summer day, and it's about 3:30 in the afternoon, and we come over the top of this hill, and the truck's loaded down, just squatting, and I'm a young kid, and it's a stick shift truck, and I'm driving down through there, and a dadgum turkey flies across the road, and there was no stopping. I never seen it. There's pine trees on both sides of the road. Turkey comes out, and it centers the windshield, just dead center, and half of that turkey is in the truck, and half of the turkey is out of the truck. And Cedric Covington looked at me and never said a word, and he just went, and just eyes this big. And I said, "Dude, what are we going to do?" And he said, "No, cuz, it's what are you going to do?" He said, "You got to tell Coach Curry." I said, "Seriously, man, what are we going to do?" So we get out, and everybody's like, "Coach Curry's going to kill you, man. What are you going to do?" And I said, "All I know is we're bringing this turkey back to the field house." So we start trying to jerk on that turkey, and we can't. We're afraid the whole windshield's going to fall out of the truck, So we just leave the turkey in the windshield and drive all the way back through Alexis, up through John's Crossroads, come by Piney Church, and duck off there by the hospital, and come out to the high school. And man, I am dreading dreading. I mean, this is Coach Curry's personal truck, you know, and I'm dreading it. And all my buddies, you know, it's before cell phones or it would have been viral. I go in there and I say, Coach, I need to talk to you. He said, what is it? I'm busy. I said, Coach, we had a wreck. He said, what? And I said, Coach, everybody's okay. And he said, what do you mean you had a wreck? And I said, Coach, we hit a turkey. He said, it ain't even turkey season. And I said, well, Coach, it may not be. I said, but we hit a turkey. He said, you didn't hit no turkey? I said, Coach, I'm telling you, we hit a turkey. It's in the windshield of your truck. And he said, you've got to be kidding me. So he walks outside, and there was that turkey. But thank goodness we didn't just wound it and it fly off or whatever, because I never would have lived that.
You had proof.
We had proof. I mean, I made sure, look, just leave the turkey right there. And, you know, luckily he didn't run us for it, because it was a total accident. But, you know, stuff like that happened day in, day out, you know, when I was coming through.
But I told Coach Ray, when he told me, I said, you hit a turkey. I said, that's BS, Scholar. And I said, I mean, I know you're a good BSer, but I'm not buying the turkey story. Now, I'll buy a lot of stories, but not the turkey story.
Look,
I go out there and look, there's a turkey stuck in my dang windshield.
If that turkey would have somehow made it through that windshield and flew off, if it would have made it, you know, if it would have not come back to 910 Warrior Drive, I may not be sitting here. I mean, at that time, we were as afraid of Coach Curry as we would have been a grizzly bear, a rattlesnake. I mean, he was just, you know, larger than life, you know. But, you know, the guys I played with, there's no telling what's liable to happen, you know, at football practice or at school or something. And, you know, he was always there to kind of rein us back in. But, you know, we probably had more fun than we had football. But I guess that's, you know, kind of what it's supposed to be like. But anyway, you've got to tell us about this. You've been, you know, I guess you would say, you know, the GOAT around here. I guess you need to kind of elaborate on these headset stories just a little bit, because it's not like you to forget something. I know you're a preparer.
Coach Jake, well, this is a great story. I first got to Cedar Bluff football season in '95. And I've never worn a headset. I can't stand to have all the noise in my ears and stuff. But we had walkie-talkies at Cedar Bluff. We had 3-channel walkie-talkies, and that's what we used with our coach on the sideline and the coach in the press box. It was just me and Jason Howard, Joe Carpenter, and Dwayne Pierce. So it was just 4 of us. And so I can't remember exactly. I think Coach Howard might have been up, and Coach Pierce was maybe on the sideline talking to him, and then Coach Carpenter. Somehow or another they communicated on Channel 2 or Channel 3. Well, our headsets at Cedar Bluff, the very first night we were using them, they got to talking on them, and they started picking up McDonald's over in Center. I don't know about the frequency and all that stuff, but the McDonald's in Center was coming through, so they was trying to change channels. The next week, we worked all week long to make sure that we could get some kind of something to where we could talk without hearing McDonald's, because they were wanting to talk on the headsets. Well, Sandrock came to town, so this would have been '97. This would have been my 3rd year, and so Sandrock comes to town, and Coach Jakeway and then would get there early, and I think it was Coach Rowe maybe and Coach Norris that was over headsets, but they had the nicest, fanciest headsets. They had the ones that were what they call wired headsets, and they'd have a big old spool, like 500 foot on
back then.
Wired headsets. We were on walkie-talkies at Cedar Bluff. Battery might go dead in the middle of the 2nd quarter. Sandrock comes in, and they got these nice headsets, wired headsets. And so they get there early, and they start running their wires from the press box. They would hook up the press box, and they would run the wires down along the fence across the back of the goal line, down the sideline. I think Coach Jakeway's daughter used to even carry his cords for his headsets, and they'd plug in on the sideline. Well, there's a guy at Cedar Bluff, legendary guy. Anybody at Cedar Bluff can tell you about Wormy Goss. Wormy Goss was for years. He was a guy, he cut the grass at Cedar Bluff, but he was as Cedar Bluff through and through as they come. Now, Wormy, at his heaviest, probably weighed 120 pounds. But he didn't like anything that he thought wasn't fair for Cedar Bluff. And so we come out to warm up. He sees those coaches from Sandrock running those wires out of the press box and taping them down as they got to the fence and running them right up against the fence. And Wormy stopped me when we was coming on the field to warm up. He said, "What are they doing?" And I said, "Well, they running the wires for their headsets." He said, "Do we got that?" I said, "Wormy, we got a couple walkie-talkies. That's all we got."
Pocket full of double A's.
I said, "No, we ain't got nothing like that." I said, "That's as nice as you can get." He said, "But they got that tonight at our school, at our game, at our place, and we don't have it." And I said, "No, we don't have them, Wormy." He said, "That's all I need to know." So he went over there and he got his clippers, and he just cut them right there about the goalpost. He cut them about halfway through. Coach Jakeway comes down there a little bit later on. He's raising Cain at me. What's going on? What's going on? My headsets. Somebody cut my headsets. And, of course, I knew who it was. And they get down. They go back and start getting some tape, and they splice.
We've got a phone guy there, and he spliced the things together twice that night.
Now, I ain't finished yet because it got better.
I think he spliced them twice.
He cut them things one time. And I think that Gerald Lee was a guy from the phone company. I think
may have been.
And they get back out there.
Him and Kenny Pruitt.
They get out there and they get spliced back up. I can see Coach on the sideline. They test them. Everything's working again, And Wormy he sees them fixing it. And I could just see the fume come out of Wormy's face. We come off the field for warm-ups about 30 minutes before the game. And Coach has got it, and he's giving them a thumbs up in the box, and he's got a good signal and everything working. Wormy said, "You watch this." And the next time Wormy, he got them clippers, he went clip, clip, clip. He cut it about 4 or 5 times. And Coach Jakeway, he took it out on me, thinking I was behind it. I didn't tell Wormy to do it, but Wormy was dead set that they wasn't going to have them nice headsets.
Home field advantage means home field advantage.
He said, "It's our place." He said, and he told me, he said, "Coach," he said, "they can wear them things all they want at their place. But they ain't wearing them over here because we ain't got them." And that was just kind of how that rivalry went. Was there was no love lost Cedar Bluff Sandrock week.
But now we had an answer to that, and I think may have been the year after you left. We come back over there, and I guess Bobby was the coach.
No, I was after Bobby. He was before me.
Well then it may have been your last year. And we come back over the next time we come to Cedar Bluff. I send the 2 guys over early with a pickup truck, and we set scaffolds up behind the visitors' bleachers. And we had those cords guarded that night.
Coach didn't ever get over all that stuff. The next year,
we had our own press. The next time we come to Cedar Bluff, we had our own press box.
They did. We had built a new home site, and so we let them have their own. But he took care of me the next year when I come to Sandrock too. We dressed right there beside the darn concession stand on their sideline in a classroom, and the room was about half the size of this garage, and it had desks in it, and that's where he put us. And it was about 1,000,000 degrees. It was, like I said, it was early September, late August, whenever we played. He got us back. He made sure that we knew the next
turnabout's fair play.
This guy worries about the temperature in his dressing room. Cause
only when the electrical guy that's for the whole school system turns it up.
Maybe 3 years ago. Here we go, guys. 2 or 3 years ago. Piedmont is playing center. And I don't care who wins. I'm not there, but I run all the controls for the HVAC.
You got to be careful saying that. It echoes in here, and people in center care who wins that game.
I run all the controls for the HVAC for the school system now, okay? And I'm at home. I'm getting ready to go watch my grandson play at Sandrock, and I get a call from Steve Smith. It's like 5 in the afternoon.
We just had got there.
They had just got to center, and he calls me, and I'm like, "Why is Steve Smith calling me?" And he says, "Hey, can you control the air in this visitor's dressing room at Cherokee County High School?" I said, "No, Steve, it's not on Wi-Fi, that sort of stuff." He said, "We're about to burn up over here." He said, "I thought maybe you could turn the air on down here for us a little bit." So he was trying every angle when he was at Piedmont, even at the center, to get some air into the dressing room.
Trying to save $1. That's all it was.
Did we have it that hot?
It wasn't you this time, Coach. This was one of my latter years.
This was just a few years
ago.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, this was probably the last time I coached in a game at center. And couldn't get no help from the coach, couldn't get no help from the people, the hospitality people. I'm like, "What's the deal, man? It's 1,000,000 degrees." Of course, if you ever played at Piedmont, it ain't the most desirable dressing room either. But I thought Coach Jakeway might be able to help me out a little bit to be able to get some air on.
Can you imagine the ramifications if I'd turned the air on down there and the people from center? I'd probably gotten fired because the people from center
You wouldn't
in
have
the
made any
system-
friends.
in the system that I work in, you know. So if I could have, I'd have probably lied to him and said, "No, Coach, I don't know what you do down there."
Well, we're going to have to reach deep in our bag, and again, Coach Benefield was supposed to be here tonight from 5, but he had something come up, and our thoughts go out to the 5 community in that situation that they're dealing with tonight. But in the spirit of dressing in not so desirable locations, I'm sure you can attest to this as a player, but and I don't even feel right talking about him because this guy's a dadgum legend. He won a state championship in football and basketball, multiple state championships. And
I know exactly where you're going with this.
you know exactly where I'm going because anybody that's ever been to Death Valley down in Alexandria, Alabama, and played the Valley Cubs, it's a hostile environment. And nobody, when Larry Ginn was walking the sidelines, looked forward to going down there. I mean, he was just a larger than life guy. But Coach Curry, you want to tell this story of the first game or at Alexandria my senior year, or you want me to?
No, I mean I can tell it.
I'm still a little bitter about it. He may be able to save face for Todd and Coach Ginn, but
Are you talking about with Jeffrey?
yeah.
We had this running back. We lined up in I and we shifted and all this stuff. And the linebackers didn't feel. And so we were pretty much running lead, sweep, and counter. Well, Jeffrey winds up with, I think for the game, he wound up like 299 yards.
On 41 carries in August.
Yeah. And he's running the ball up and down the field. So we're just giving it to him. And at the end of the half, or right before the half, Jeffrey gets hit and he's got a concussion. Well, back then, concussions wasn't as bad as what they are now. And so one of the Gins come over and said, "Coach, we've got a trainer from Alexandria that will come look at him." I said, "No, we're not doing it. We're not doing that."
You knew what the outcome would
I
be. if
know
he did.
what that was
Yeah,
going
at
to be.
this time, Jeffrey probably had 200 yards rushing, 175 yards rushing.
Yeah. And so Jeffrey, we go in the locker room, and you just have to know Jeffrey's mother, Donna. And so we go in the locker room, and first of all, it's about somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 degrees in that place. And Jeffrey's mother comes in there, and I don't let anybody come in the locker room. I mean, that's just for the kids and coaches and stuff like that. I don't do that. Well, she comes in the back door, and she said, "Coach Kerr, how's my boy?" I said, "Well, he's got checked by a trainer, and I think he's okay." And she's crying, and she said, "Was he gonna go back in?" And I said, "Well, Donna, they cleared him, and I think he's fine, and we need him." And so she says, "Oh God, Coach, don't get my boy hurt." And I said, "Well, we don't intend on that." And then finally, she said, "Coach, I've thought about this. Just run my boy, run my boy."
Look, and I'm telling you, to back up and to, really paint the picture. This room, everything in it, including the inside of the toilet bowl, is orange. They've got it
It's all orange.
that mustard, Alexandria, ugly orange. Golly, and I'm an Auburn fan. I love orange.
It's not the same
But,
orange, though.
Yeah, it's not the same orange. I mean, I don't know where they got that color paint, but it's the only place you can see it. You just got to go see it. And anyway, we're sitting in there, and it's like we're all out there with our shoulder pads off, and they've got the dadgum thermostat off the wall. It's just wires hanging out of the wall, and they've got these big heaters like you'd see in like a greenhouse or a shop or something, and it's just blowing heat. So we're all out in the dadgum parking lot back behind the field house, and the bleachers are like right there, and we're just dying. But anyway, we come through that game, and Jeffrey Woods ran behind one, in my opinion, probably the best offensive line ever come through Cherokee County. And, Matt Morgan and Andrew Jones and Brad Weaver and Will Miller and Ryan Law. I mean, those guys, they were awesome as a unit. I mean, they worked hard. They were a good offensive line, and we come out of there. But if you ever go to Alexandria, you just know, especially back in those days, you just know that you're fixing to be in for a war.
Yep.
And
you're fixing to be in for a. Y'all talked about officiating a while ago. At Alexandria, you're going to get schooled on officiating now.
Oh yeah, they're gonna.
And I'm not talking about officials, but that's just the way it
Well,
is.
I am, and a couple of years ago, I went down when I was at Etowah. I went down for the officiating meeting, and all the coaches are sitting in there, and you're like, I'm Skylar Ray, I'm from Etowah, and they ask you want a 5 or 7 man crew, and I said, can we have 3? I mean, nobody likes officials, and again, we're pretty blessed, to have officials that do a good job. But we was watching Auburn and Georgia play this past weekend, play basketball here at the house, and I'm sitting in there and I'm on the edge of my seat, big Auburn fan, and I'm rooting Auburn to a victory. I'm sure I had a lot to do with it, but I'm sitting here saying, man, that's a carry, that's a double dribble, you got to call that a reach, And I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, and my wife said, you ought to be an official. And I said, that is the only job where you can get every single call correct and leave there and half the people hate your guts.
Yeah.
And, I guess to poke fun at you a little bit, I remember being a part of some of those losses that y'all handed us, later on in the years when we were sitting over there on that lonesome sideline looking at that big, nice stadium over there, the Field of Champions at Piedmont, and seeing a angry Steve Smith cutout, So I think you've probably got on an official a time or two.
I'm always inviting them to church. That's all I do.
Just talking to him.
Just talking to them.
Well, and he's not here tonight, but Paul Benefield's story, I'd have to tell this if he was here. He used to always, and he'd say it to my face, he didn't care. When we were playing Fife, and we had some good battles with Fife, a lot of them. And he won more than I won in the end, because we always talked about when he first went to Fife, I was a better coach than he was, and a few years later he became a better coach than me. And really, it's what it was. He got that thing going, and he had some players, but he always called the officials, and I don't know why he did this. Every time he came to Sandrock, he said, "Well, we have the Jakeaway Association at Sandrock," and I mean, he would say it in the newspaper. I'd pick up the DeKalb County paper that week, and he would say it in front of the newspaper. Well, one thing we'll have to fight is they have the Jakeaway Association calling ball games at Sandrock. He would go ahead and plant that seed before the games ever started.
And to touch on Coach Benefield at Fife, I had never had I don't know if you'd call it the honor or the punishment of playing him, and I've always, watched him play, on TV or seen highlights or, at the Paul Benefield Invitational down there at the state championship every year.
Yeah.
It seems like he wins it about every time that they have one. He's kind of like,
for a while it was the Paul Benefield Steve Smith invitation.
Yeah, it was, and the Taylor Bird Invitational. She's a Sandrock native, so Taylor wins one.
She wins the softball.
She
and
wins
Russell
one
about 3 out of every 4 years.
Yeah, she's going to win one. But anyway, I'm at the Leesburg Citgo, and I get called from Coach Willingham over at Collinsville, and he asked me if I'd be interested in interviewing for their defense coordinator job. And of course, it gets me a little closer to home, and I loved it at Etowah, and the drive was just something I couldn't pass up. And it's a great it's a great school, great system, and I love the guys I coach with and the kids that play for us and everything. But immediately upon getting that job, I start looking down the schedule, at where we kind of stack up, and you got Cedar Bluff, and if we step out of this gym, you can see the lights at Cedar Bluff here. So I knew I didn't want to lose to Cedar Bluff, and got a bunch of buddies, that graduated from over there, and several that teach over there now, and right at the top of the list was Fife. So fast forward, on into the summer, we're running through expo markers pretty quick, and they are very unconventional as to what most teams do around here, just because of their identity and what they do. And I called, started going through the Rolodex and called Coach Smith from Furman University. I had my little boy up there at quarterback camp, and I was picking his brain, and I called James Blanchard, who was the defense coordinator through all those teams at Piedmont, and had a little success, and had a lot of wars, throughout the years. And I'm mentioned it to you, and of course I sat down with Coach Curry, probably more than he would like, but definitely more than Miss Jane Ann would like. It seemed like all summer hey, what would you do to this, or what would you do to that? And I'm trying to gather up everything that made sense, or I felt like we would have any success with. And finally, I'm kind of getting pregame jitters and starting to kind of second guess everything that we've done. And I sat down with Coach Willingham and all of our staff, the Sunday before, and I said, Coach, I'm telling you, no matter what happens, I said, that tight end may run down the field all night long, but no matter what happens, we're going to load that box. I mean, there's no sense in having 4 guys in the secondary, because I've watched every film. They ain't going to throw it but 1 or 2 times, and if they throw 2 touchdown passes, so be it. Well, we kick off to them, or they kick off to us. We flop the field and punt it down there to them and pin them deep. And I'm feeling pretty good, as a defense coordinator. Hey, we've got good field position, to start defense, and we go out there and boom, we take on the pulling guard, wrong shoulder thing, spill it, make the tackle. Next play, they do the same thing the other side, and boom, we wrong shoulder it, spill it, make the tackle. They take the snap, fake the handoff, right down the middle of the field. We didn't have a guy within the zip code. I'm pretty sure they set I know it's the Paul Benefield single game state or single game record, but I feel quite certain it could be a state record, because we didn't cover the forward pass real well that night, and he lit us up. But
he did the same thing to us one year.
He adapts and overcomes very well. He's in it, and what he's done at a small school like Fife, he's managed to kind of ride the top of the wave. In a lot of places, you go up and down, and what he's done over there is unbelievable. And again, our thoughts go out tonight to the people at Fife and the Fife faithful and the situation they're dealing with. But I know he'll have those guys ready to play. And there was talks of him getting out, and the competitor in me, the common sense would say, hey, hurry and get him out, but the competitor in me hopes he sticks around another couple of years.
I had a long conversation with him about 2 weeks ago at a basketball game. I laughed. We were playing Fife. My grandson was a senior, and so I went to all the basketball. I didn't miss a football game or a basketball game this year because of my grandson. But I get there and look over there, and Paul's sitting over in the corner. And I walk on, he laughed. He said, "This is only I think he said the 3rd basketball game I've been to all year, and my wife's the girls' coach." But we talked for about an hour, and he is really right now, and he may have made a decision since then, they may know, but since I talked that night, he was really debating it in his head, and it's hard to walk away from. It is, if it's ingrained in you that much. And because there's still nights now that I miss it like I'll get out, and I've been out 11 years now. And, I still tell people, I hadn't closed the door on coming back. I hadn't. If the right opportunity came along, I'm an old man. I still think I could do it. I might not could, but I think I could. But Paul he's really fighting it right now. And I know he's got a son about to graduate from college. And he said, I'd love if I could get him hired and coach with him for a year. And so I think that's kind of and I think he still feels like he's got a good football team coming back. So the night we talked, he was really debating it back and forth in his head as to what he wanted to do.
Well, Coach Smith talked about, when he talks to officials, the only thing he's asking is just to go to church, and we had
sometimes I ask them if they've ever been.
Well, when I was a younger kid, I talked about, being familiar with your wife because, she was a home ec teacher. Coach Smith was the head coach at Cedar Bluff, and he was my Sunday school teacher. And my dad had just got diagnosed with liver cancer. And, we were members at Piney Church at the time, and Coach Smith and my dad was in the back of the church. And, you never knew what Patrick Walker, I call him Scooter, Coach Walker at Piedmont, who coached with Coach Smith at Piedmont and Cedar Bluff, he was just family friends. So, they were back there, playing armchair quarterback and talking about NFL and this and that. But this particular Sunday, it was Super Bowl Sunday. And we're in church, and it had not been brought up or anything. And just to kind of tell you, what it's like, growing up in a small town, I think you could go to any restaurant or any business and not see anybody on a Friday night if Cherokee County or Piedmont or Westbrook, everybody's at the football game. And, football and sports in general, right now it's girls and boys basketball, and soon it'll be softball and baseball, and then, the process just kind of starts over.
You've got the Spring Garden Invitational going on in the girls basketball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Coach Wright and them, they won a big game today. But, to kind of speed this story up, Coach Walker and my dad and Coach Smith are in the back of the church, and about half the time you can hear them giggling, as church is starting to take place, and of course my dad's kind of like me, his voice carries, and you could have heard him in the parking lot. And they're taking up offering, and the youth always sat at that time right in the middle of the church. And about halfway down, I was sitting about halfway down right in the middle of the youth group, right there, just right in front of the pulpit. And I hear, "Psst, Scott, come here." And so I start sliding down the pew, and I get down there, and my dad said, "You want to go to the Super Bowl?" And I said, yeah, I want to go to the Super Bowl. I'm like, he's like, hush. He said, "When we get done taking up the offering, meet me in the back of the church." No questions asked. I mean, that wasn't like, "Hey, I need you to clean your room," or "I need you to mow the grass or go weed it." I'm like, yes, sir, I'm there. So I go over and I start gathering up my Bible and my little pamphlets, and I get up and I just kind of, not make it obvious, and just kind of meander onto the back of the room, and I'm all but running up the aisle of Piney Church. And I get back there, and he said, "Hey, me, you, and Coach Smith and Miss Rachel, we're going to the Super Bowl." I said, "Let's go." So we strike out on a Sunday in a red Aerostar van, and we're all piled in there, in church clothes. Everybody. It's when the greatest show on turf.
Rams and the
Rams
Titans.
and the Titans were playing. And of course, we didn't have any tickets, but we met Rich Eisen and Dickie V, and anybody that was anybody that was somebody was at the Super Bowl, and it was just such a fun time. And we ended up watching it there. Once the game kicked off, we ended up watching in some restaurant right up there.
Yeah, we couldn't get in. I've never. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been to many sporting events, and the only time I ever didn't get in somehow or another was at the Super Bowl.
We talked about doing that exact same thing, never did it.
We couldn't
just going and walking around like we were going to do.
We couldn't find people scalping tickets. We couldn't find anything. There wasn't a ticket.
That old boy. As soon as we got off the little.
Yeah, there was one guy that was standing down there, a big old mountain of a man, probably about 6'6", 300 pounds, and he was holding up. I remember he was holding up 10 $100 bills. He had $1,000 for anybody that was coming off the elevator to buy a ticket. And he stood there the whole day. I don't think he ever got in.
I don't think he ever did.
We wound up talking to some people from Cherokee County the following Monday, or the day after the Super Bowl, and they got in. They had found somebody at one of the gates that they slid them in. That's where you had to scan your tickets and all that stuff. They slid them some money, and they got to be in there like standing room only or something, which we didn't get it. We didn't even get that lucky, but we didn't get in at all. But
well,
we had a great time. Like I said, it was good. It was fun being in all the festivities, all the little fanfare type stuff that was going on.
And it was a great football game.
It was a good game.
Come right down to the final.
The Titans got stopped like on the 1 foot line. They threw that pass that they caught and tackled them about a yard or half a yard short of the goal line. That would have maybe tied the game up. I can't remember the final score, but that was the way that the game ended.
That when Steve McNair played.
McNair was playing for the Titans. That's right.
That was a great game.
Yeah, it ended up being a great game. And Coach Curry talked about, Jeffrey Woods, and I mentioned some of the offensive linemen that I played with, but there's hundreds of guys that come through Cherokee County, but and same thing at Sandrock and Cedar Bluff and any other school. It takes more than just a handful of guys to make a program go. And you talked about some of the people there. And I guess one of the funniest stories that I have since we're talking about y'all winning state championships and everything, is in 2009, Coach Curry runs a tight ship. And we all go down to the state championship game, and again, we're undefeated. We're 14-0, and we'd beat a good Deschler team this time at our place. And we get down to the state championship game, and we come out, and Jackson looks like LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, they're huge, just like they were this past year.
Yep.
And Jeff Kelly, that played in the NFL, was their coach, and we're all kind of scratching our head, thinking, God, it can't be like this again. And we had been on the drawing board, really that whole season to try to, not really looking forward, but just making preparations if we'd got there, and we come out and get a defensive stop and get the ball back, and we go down and score. And it seems like in Iron Bowl fashion, being in Tuscaloosa, it just seems like there was just too much time left on the clock. It was too much for comfort anyway. It wasn't like you score with just seconds to go or as time run out. But anyway, we start going back out, for that final drive to down. I guess we were down 4 points, and we go out there, and Coach Curry's got the whole offense around him and Coach Wagner, and Wagner's talking to Cody, and everybody's just kind of gathered around. There's everybody seems like there's 100 people in a circle just waiting to hear what he'll say. And he said, all right, boys, just like any other time, we got to score to win it. So we're in 4 down territory right here. So he gets to start it or whatever, and we go out there, and it seems like, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 plays ensues, and we're crossing midfield, and Cody throws the ball down to Gabriel, and we're really starting to move, and it's a big play, and everybody talks about the catch that Gabriel made, but the one thing that doesn't get talked about is what happened before the next snap. And Coach Curry is standing there, and when Gabriel makes the catch, we're all just, in awe of the catch, because the guy actually had it intercepted, and Gabriel just reaches down and takes it from him, gets both feet in, and our sideline goes nuts. Well, we're on the field. And I say I mean everybody. Coach Curry, Wagner, Big O. Big O's out there eating his sunflower seeds, and the whole team's out there, and we're excited, biggest play for us so far of the game. And again, we're driving to score, and flag comes out. Well, you could have heard a mouse pee on cotton. I mean, it was quiet as Sunday service without you and Ricky Ray. I mean, it's quiet, and everybody is just snow white. Our faces are just like, oh God, that's on me. And everybody just backs up real quick, and crosses their arms like, I'm not guilty. And we're all looking around, and Coach Curry said, what's the flag on? And he's going nuts, and he's working officially. He said, what's the flag on? Who's it on? What is it? He said, sideline warning, Coach. He said, what? He said, there's no way. And, again, there's 100 guys on the field. And he said, who's it on? And every one of us just closes our eyes and just kind of squeaking out of our eyes, just barely got them open. And he looks around, and that referee goes, it's that guy. And it was Papa Whiz. And man, I'm telling you. But I talked to Whiz today, as a matter of fact, and he is just one of those guys, that just kind of, him and Frog West, they were the cog that kind of kept everything going, at Cherokee County through the years. And I'm sure you've got those guys at Sandrock in the community.
Yep. Ronnie Shaw, Dale Bates, everybody had some of those people that, were always there for you when you needed
Yep.
it.
Absolutely. And
but you're telling the story about the drive, and what was crazy, you won't believe who I was sitting in the press box with.
there's no telling.
Bobby Joe Johnson. And I don't, and unlike Coach Johnson, because me and him were tight. Now, okay, Coach Smith was talking about me and him talking football when he came to Siegel. I know he talked with Coach Johnson a lot too. Coach Johnson was kind of my mentor in a way when I came into this county. He kind of took me under and was willing to talk football anytime I wanted to. But we sat there that game, And I don't think Coach Johnson spoke the whole second half that day. He just watched the ball game. Coach Norris was sitting there with me, Jeffrey Norris, my defensive coordinator, and we had always just talked all the time. But he got real quiet. And when center scored right there at the end of the ball game to win the game, you could look over at Bobby Joe, and he just kind of smiled and leaned back, like, got us one finally. You could just see it in his face, that satisfaction. But Coach Johnson's story, though, and I got a ton of them, and you probably do too. We all do. But and the man was great to me. But invariably early in the season, we'd be playing on a night when Cherokee County High School wasn't playing. And I would look, you couldn't miss him. I'd look down in the end zone, there'd be Coach Johnson standing in the end zone. And I would know that either before I got home or when I got home that night, I was going to get a phone call. And he would call me and he'd be like, "Woo, boy, got to work on that power some." He said, "You fullback not blocking a linebacker." I mean, he would have it broke down. And it was unreal when I'd go look at the film, what he had seen, how he could do that without looking at the film. And he would give me basically a synopsis of what we had done wrong, when I got home. Because he knew I wanted it. He knew I was open to it. But there was a year in there after Coach Johnson left Cherokee County before he went to Sachs. And he taught driver's ed in this county. And when he taught it, when he would come to Sandrock for about a half a day, because we had a lot of kids, my office was his office. He just kind of came in the field house and took over. So anytime we had a teacher day or whatever, he would go by Hardee's, get a bag of biscuits, and come in and sit down. And he was out of coaching at that time. He'd say, "All right, we don't have a coaching clinic today." "Yes, sir, we are." And he'd drop some of them pass routes you run, things like that. And he was still wanting to learn, and I'd say, "Okay, but you draw up how you block this." And we'd get to just swapping back and forth and talking, and I appreciated that man a lot. I got to say that Coach Johnson meant a lot to me, as far as was just always very open and talking football and how he did things. And a lot of my power run game I got from Coach Johnson. And I know when Coach Smith probably played us, he'd be thinking, "That looks real familiar."
Yeah.
And it was I formation, power sweep, power run game with a lot of Bobby Joe Johnson influence to it.
And I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I've never met a stranger, and worst thing you can do is just hang up on me or not answer or whatever, and there's a good chance I'll call you back. But that's the one thing that I've been really, really blessed with, is being able to just pick up the phone and call some guys that have forgotten more ball than I know, and I can't tell you how many times I would necessarily, I guess I would consider myself an offensive guy, but in order to coach offense, you got to kind of know what the defense is doing, and I can't tell you how many times I've called, Coach Curry or Coach Rose or whoever, or send them a clip and say, "Hey, how would you line up to this?" Or, how would you line up to that? And, being able as a young coach to I guess call somebody that's, better than you is just, one of those things that is irreplaceable, if you will. And like I said, Coach Curry has helped me more than he cares to admit, but he was very, very influential in my life growing up, as he was everybody that played for him there at Cherokee County, and we've had some really good teams, and even when our record didn't necessarily reflect of how special those teams were, I still remember all those guys that come through at Cherokee County or North Jackson or Etowah, and those guys, they're good people. And, I've still got, several buddies, that I played high school football with. One of the guys that, started this TC Duck Club podcast was one of my offensive linemen and best friend in the world. And I named my son after him. And, I think all of y'all would be more equipped to weigh in on this. But, in my opinion, I think, if the biggest thing you learn, while you're out there at practice is football, then, you kind of fail. But,
I have kids come back now, and since I've been out 11 years now, and they tell, "Coach, I went in the military and I could handle it because of football," or this things that they learned, the things I didn't realize they were learning. And, when you get done, it makes you feel really good about it. But yeah, you think about football in this part of the state. Think about how good high school football has been. Going all the way back to when we won the state championship in '85, Valley Head wins it before us, the year before us, in the same region. We win it the next year. Crossville wins one the next year. Piedmont went on a row and won. How many? I lost count. I'm sure he knows. 10, 8, 9, 15. I don't remember.
Back in the 80s, Gadsden won one.
Gadsden High School won in the 80s.
85, and they won one. They went in the playoffs with a
Etowah,
losing record.
Etowah got one. Etowah won one the year we played in the state final.
Alexandria won 2 or 3.
Coach Curry gets one at Cherokee County. Alexandria won 2 or 3. And that's all. Yeah. We're not talking about all of Northeast Alabama. We're talking about this immediate area.
Well, it's region play or non-region games. I mean, it's within a 30-minute bus ride any direction, and it's because of guys like y'all pouring so much into the community, and what people don't understand, is how many hours guys like Trip Curry or Rusty Jakeaway or Steve Smith spend year round. It's not just on Friday night. The product you see on the field on Friday night starts in elementary school. I mean, nowadays, you can't start them too young, and it starts early, and football around these parts has been a big part of my life, and so many other people around here, and it's such a competitive community and area, if you will. But talking about his state championships, I may or may not have had Jana McGinnis on the episode that's going to air tomorrow night at 7:00, and Jana was pretty familiar with Miss Coach Smith, and I think we might have gave Rachel a little bit of credit on some of those state championship wins, and I think Coach Smith will be the first one to tell you she had a big part of it.
Big team effort, man. Coach will tell you, a coaching wife is a special lady just for the mere fact that you are going so many hours to the field house and working at the field and working with everybody else's kids and all those things, and that's something that I tell coaches all the time, especially younger coaches that think they want to get into it. If we've ever had a position, we talk to a younger coach, I'd always make them bring their wife to the interview because, the last thing you want to do is see somebody's marriage split up because of coaching responsibilities. But I don't think a lot of people really understand that, and you want to make sure that you're transparent with people and up front. And I tell you, having a great wife and supportive family all around and kids that like ball, it gave me an opportunity to get to do what I love to do and not have that pressure of trying to make sure everybody, at home was on board with everything because my house is very competitive. Nobody can criticize me for decisions made any worse than my house can. My own dad, and I'll tell this on him, but I took the job at Cedar Bluff in '95. My dad had been in the quarterback club at Center for 25 years, toted the chains for a long time, sold programs, all those things. And I took the job at Cedar Bluff in '95, and he was a little bit apprehensive, He just, I don't know about that, And so he comes to the first 2 games. We play Sampson on a Saturday night because the first game I had on the schedule was supposed to be against Raglan, and they disbanded football in the summertime. And so I needed a game 1 before we played Sand Rock week 2. And I was still living at home at the time. I had 1 year of coaching experience at Coosa High School in Rome, Georgia. I got hired for the Cedar Bluff job on July. Mr. Mintz interviewed me on July 28th. There'd been a shake up there at Cedar Bluff. He elevated to principal. He had asked somebody to teach math, coach football, coach baseball. And in fact, I met the kids at Cedar Bluff on the first day of practice that following Monday. But anyway, my dad, he come and watched us that first game against Sampson. I should have known. This is how naive I was as a coach. Mr. Mintz told me, he said, being a new coach might not be a bad idea to have an open week there to start the year, give you another week. I said, no, we play it in a game. We're going to find somebody. Well, there was 3 schools in the state that was open. Spring Garden was open in the county, and we didn't play them, but Tommy Lewis had taken the football job, and he wanted to be open week 1. Alexandria was open, and that was Matt Campbell's either junior or senior year. I can't remember, and I knew better than to play Alexandria at Cedar Bluff. And there was a little school in South Alabama, Sampson. And everybody around here knew about Emma Sampson. I didn't know who Sampson was. And I called him. I should have first key that I was getting it over my head was when I called their coach. He said, "Yeah, we'd love to come play. We just want to play on Saturday because it's a long trip. If we can play on Saturday." And he said, "We don't want no money. We don't want anything."
That's a bad indicator.
That's a bad indicator.
And like a sucker, I took the bait. It was 35-0 Sampson at halftime. They played the young guys in the second half, and we scored a touchdown. It wound up being 35-8. So my dad, I remember he asked me that weekend, he said, "Did you learn anything?" I said, "Yeah, I learned sometimes it ain't bad to have a bye week," just like Mr. Mintz said. But so we get ready to play Sandrock on a short turnaround on Thursday night the next week. And Coach Jakeway is on that string of McMicken quarterbacks, and this is Jeremiah, I think, the oldest one in '95.
He had one for
He had
about
one for
those
like 16
about
years.
25 of those 35 years.
Danny Mack come back and played a couple years for
Yeah.
him. But anyhow, Jeremiah was on that team, and we led the game in the fourth quarter, 12-7. And long story short, they converted 2 or 3 fourth downs, and we had a couple of pass interference penalties. He taught us about Jacksonville guys. And there's a guy on my staff right now at Westbrook, Wayne Lee, that actually his daddy was the head of the officials, Turkey Lee, and Wayne called that game. And me and Wayne wound up being at each other's weddings. And Wayne actually, I still give him credit.
Told you so.
Yeah, but Wayne threw one of them penalties that kept that last drive going, and we still talk about that to this day. He swears it wasn't him. But anyhow, long story short, they beat us, scored on the last drive and beat us 13-12, I think it was, something like that. And so it was 0-2. And that particular Sunday, we sat down and ate lunch at the house. Like I said, I'm still living at home with Mom and Dad. My dad didn't talk to me all day on Saturday. And Sunday he told me, he said, "That's enough." He said, "I ain't coming back watching no more of that." And he said, I can't watch it. He said, "You ain't doing a very good job." He said, "Y'all ain't very good." And he went back the next week and started selling programs again with Wayne Gossett and all them guys at center and went back. So my dad even bolted on me the last 8 games of my first season. But that's just the way our family, everything's about winning and being competitive, but very thankful to have the people in my life, my family, that have been always so supportive of what we've done.
Now, I can tell you Coach Smith's story, but a different Coach Smith. Miss Coach Smith started in this county. I guess that was her first job in the county.
Yep.
She came to Sandrock, and she coached volleyball, coached softball, and actually my youngest daughter played for her at Sandrock. And we had some good times. She'd come out to the field house, sit, and we'd talk ball just like I was sitting talking to Coach Curry or Coach Smith or any other coach. I mean, she was that knowledgeable. And she'd come out there and sit, and we'd talk ball and stuff. And Coach Smith even came to some of our football banquets, athletic banquets.
I did.
He was a little apprehensive the first time, and I said, "Don't worry." I said, "Look, we're going to put you on the front table." And he's like, "Front table?" I said, "Yeah, with me." And so they'd be doing all those basketball awards up there and all that stuff. Me and him be sitting there talking football the whole banquet.
Yep.
And so, we had a good time back in then. But, Miss Coach Smith was at Sandrock back in the early days here in the county. And I really appreciate her because I didn't have to worry about that part of the program because she was going to have discipline and have them working. But, yeah, we had some good football conversations at Sandrock sports banquets.
Well, and every head coach that I've been around has had, a wife that, helped out in some way. But, I guess I would probably get in trouble with Miss Jane Ann if I didn't, mention how good she was to me and, all the guys that I played with and coached with. And, my hat's off to her because she has to put up with Coach Curry. And other than having to put up with him, she's probably got the worst job in the county, except my wife, if we lose, and my first 2 years at Etowah, we lost Thanksgiving weekend. And, we played in the third round on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So, I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat. I'm just sitting there just, nervous, because we're playing Fred Yancey at Briarwood one year and Danny Horn at Clay Central the next year. And, both games we ended up losing. And, of course, I'm miserable to be around till, first of the year when we get the kids back and start going again. But, I know if Miss Jane Ann was here, she would have plenty of stories to tell about Coach Curry, because I'm sure putting up with me and some of my teammates and some of the guys that we've coached with through the years, I would imagine it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Let me tell you what Miss Jane Ann did one time. I go to all these coaching clinics, especially when I first started. But I go to Alabama and Auburn and Florida State and Tennessee and trying to learn football. And I think I've got the world solved in football. Well, I come home one Saturday or Sunday, and I'm on the phone. Look, let's just start running this right here. This is going to be great. And I got off the phone, and I talked for probably 45 minutes on the phone with another coach. I got off the phone, and Jane Ann said, she said, now, Trip, you do realize you don't have the same athletes as where you just been. You're right.
Well, it's probably pretty good advice because, again, all three of y'all has been pretty successful, and I know all three of the boss ladies, if you will, the head coach at home. I know all of them, and sometimes my big idea is kind of get deflated before they leave the house, and most of the time they probably need to because my wife has got a full-time job teaching school, and then her main job is keeping me grounded and under control, especially if we come up short on Friday night. But again, I'd like to say thank y'all so much because y'all three were just larger than life, like so many others. So many other coaches, so many other people. But, for me personally, it was none bigger than y'all three growing up here in Cherokee County. And I hope everybody, can kind of see y'all for more than a football coach or just another figure because, for me, y'all were just, all there was, for so many years growing up around here. But thank y'all so much for coming by. And I've had a lot of fun.
Still at it.
Yeah, he's still giving people gray hair and headaches every Friday. But
I'm a lot younger than the other two.
You must not like to fish and flip lights off like these guys.
Well, I got 3 kids in college right now at the same time, so we still got some bills. So.
Well, I can tell you stories rip your heart out about stuff like that. But again, y'all do a great job at everything you do, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate y'all coming by, and I'm sure it means a lot to the people that's going to listen to this, and hopefully everybody will get a laugh out of it, and they'll keep watching. But thank y'all for stopping by.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I
thank
appreciate
you.
the invitation
Same
to come
here.
with these two guys and sit and talk.
Well, before we go, I guess it wouldn't be a state championship podcast or a sports-oriented podcast without some hot wings. We were lucky enough to talk to a former Cherokee County High School Warrior, Morier, down at the Shack, local restaurant here in town. He has supplied us with enough hot wings to hopefully founder a couple of us before we go home. So if you hadn't already, make sure you check out the Shack here in Cherokee County. It's located close to Walmart down on 411, and I'm telling you, the wings are unbelievable. We've got garlic parmesan, lemon pepper, teriyaki, and 2 or 3 other flavors.
Honey
So
barbecue and mild.
I'm sure they're going to be great. And now that we're done running our mouth, I guess we can fill it full of the Shack wings. So that'll do it for another episode of Talking Quack and Smack with TC Duck Club. Y'all stay with us, and we'll keep killing them.